Imagine this. One day, the class teacher suddenly stands in front of the entire class and says that earlier that morning, she mixed HIV-infected blood into the food of 2 students in the class. What would happen? Within just a few seconds, panic would spread throughout the entire classroom. But that wasn't even the most terrifying truth. Behind that shocking announcement was a mother's story of revenge so disturbing that by the end, you might not even be able to decide for yourself who was guilty and who was innocent. I'm talking about the 2010 Japanese psychological thriller Confessions, considered one of the finest films in its genre. The movie received 17 nominations and went on to win 7 awards. So hello friends, and welcome to Nuri Recaps. The story begins inside a classroom at a Japanese high school. Everything seems completely normal. All the students are drinking the milk provided by the school. Some are busy talking while others are laughing and joking around. But there was one thing they all had in common. No one in the class had any interest in the lesson. That's because almost none of them liked their teacher, Miss Yuko. To the students, her class was nothing more than a boring period they simply had to get through. But that day's class was going to be different. Suddenly, Yuko calmly says, "I'm leaving this school at the end of this month." The moment she finishes speaking, a wave of excitement sweeps through the classroom, as if the person they disliked the most was finally going away. But there is no resentment on Yuko's face. Instead, she seems strangely calm. Slowly, Yuko begins to speak. "Do you know Dr. Sakuramiya? Last year he found out that he had only a few months left to live." Just then, 2 students quietly stand up and walk out of the classroom. But Yuko doesn't seem to notice them at all. She walks over to the board and writes a single word in large letters: life. Then she looks at the entire class and says, "Today, I want to talk to you about your lives. You all know that I'm a single mother. I wanted to marry Monami's father. He was a teacher too. But before we could get married, I became pregnant, and that's when he found out that he was infected with HIV. That single sentence leaves the entire classroom completely silent. A question immediately crosses many of their minds. Does that mean Yuko has AIDS? But without answering that question, Yuko continues telling her story. "Monami's father didn't want us to get married. He wanted our daughter to grow up healthy. After Monami was born, he was satisfied with simply watching her from a distance. He never once held his own daughter. He didn't even touch her." As she speaks, there isn't a single tear in Yuko's eyes. But the heaviness in her voice makes it clear that these memories still hurt her deeply. She continues, "I raised Monami with all the love I had. When she turned 1, I left her at a daycare center and went back to work. Mrs. Nakano had a pet dog named Muku. Monami loved Muku more than anything. Every day she would feed him with her own hands." She then says, "One day Monami asked me for nothing more than a bunny-designed purse. But at that time, I didn't even have enough money to buy it for her." As she says this, she slowly turns toward Naoki. "That day, you saw us at the market. Do you remember? Monami asked me for nothing but a purse. And yet, that was the last thing she ever asked me for. A few days later, I found Monami at the swimming pool. The police said it was an accident, because Monami would sometimes go to the pool alone to feed Muku. But even today, I don't believe it was an accident, because my daughter was murdered." The entire classroom seems to freeze in an instant. No one says a word. Yuko now looks at everyone and slowly says, "2 students from this very class murdered Monami." The students who had been laughing only moments ago now have visible fear on their faces. No one can believe that what Yuko is saying could possibly be true. Yuko continues, I know many of you are wondering how I could be so certain. Because I found the killers myself. I won't reveal their names. For now, I'll simply refer to one of them as Student A. Student A is the most intelligent student in this class. He's exceptionally good at his studies. He also has a strong interest in inventing new things. Several students look at one another. It seems they are beginning to understand who Yuko is talking about. Then Yuko says, "One day, he came into my laboratory carrying a purse. But the moment I touched the zipper, I received a powerful electric shock. Later, he told me that he had built it so that no one would be able to steal the purse. He even won an award at the school's middle final for this invention. Now there is no doubt left in anyone's mind." A quiet murmur spreads throughout the classroom, and with it comes a name. KK Shoya. Yuko shows no reaction. Instead, she calmly says, "I was the first person to tell Student A about Monami's death, but I didn't see even the slightest trace of regret in his eyes. Instead, he was more concerned about his award. He believed that the entire country would know his name. He imagined the news of his invention appearing on the front pages of newspapers. But fate had something completely different planned for him. That very day, a 13-year-old girl killed her entire family by mixing cyanide into their food. Every news outlet in the country became obsessed with that story, and that was the day all of his dreams came crashing down. By now, the entire class is staring at Shoya. Now let's talk about Student B. He loved sports, but under pressure from his mother, he was eventually forced to give them all up. One day, he was taken to the police station after getting into a fight at school. Later, the sports teacher came to take him away, but he was surprised because he had expected me to come and get him. As punishment, he was forced to spend 2 straight weeks cleaning around the swimming pool. By now, the entire class has figured out who Student B is. It's none other than Naoki. Naoki sits there with his head lowered. Yuko now looks at the two of them and says, "One day, Student A approached Student B with a proposal. Together, they decided who their first victim would be. And to get revenge on me, they chose my daughter, Monami." The entire classroom remains completely silent. Yuko continues, "They knew that Monami often went to the swimming pool to feed Muku. They also knew that she had wanted a bunny-designed purse. So they bought a purse that looked exactly like the one she wanted and gave it to Monami. Thinking it was a gift from her mother, Monami happily took the purse in her hands. The moment she touched the zipper, a powerful electric shock went through her body, and she collapsed to the ground. Student B panicked. But Student A said only one thing to Student B. "She's dead, and if you want, you can tell everyone that I did it." With those words, he simply walked away. And that was where an even more horrifying chapter began. After Student A left, Naoki was left standing alone at the scene. His entire body was trembling with fear. Slowly, that fear turned into pure panic. If everyone found out that he was involved, his life would be over. He dragged the unconscious Monami toward the swimming pool. Then, without thinking for even a moment, he threw her into the water. Standing in the classroom, Yuko calmly says, "That day, I went to Student A and told him, 'You killed my daughter.'" But he didn't deny anything, because he knew the law couldn't give him any serious punishment. Then Yuko reveals a truth that leaves the entire class stunned. Monami hadn't died from the electric shock. She had only been unconscious for some time. She died when Student B threw her into the swimming pool. Naoki's face immediately turns pale. Yuko slowly looks around the entire classroom. There is no anger in her eyes, only an endless sense of disappointment. As a teacher, my job isn't simply to teach. My responsibility is to guide my students onto the right path. I wanted them to confess their crimes themselves. At least once, I wanted them to understand how much a human life is worth. This morning, I mixed Dr. Sakuramiya's HIV-infected blood into the milk of student A and student B. The entire class seems to forget how to breathe. And then, all around the classroom, screams and chaos erupt. Shoya can't say a word. Naoki completely breaks down. Yuko, however, remains as calm as before as she addresses the classroom. Get a blood test in a few months. And with that, she says nothing more. Slowly and silently, she walks out of the classroom. And with that, a teacher's final class comes to an end. But what came next was a story of revenge, whose true horror no one could have imagined yet. A few months pass. Yuko's final class is now nothing more than a memory. The school slowly returns to its usual rhythm. A man named Mr. Wada joins the school as the new class teacher. From his very first day, he treats the students like friends, and it doesn't take long for him to become the entire class's favorite teacher. But within just a few days, he notices something. There is a seat in the corner of the classroom that remains empty every single day. It belongs to Naoki. Wada looks into the matter and learns that Naoki isn't physically ill. Instead, he has stopped coming to school because he has completely broken down mentally. After learning this, Wada refuses to give up. Instead, he tells the entire class, "We're all going to bring Naoki back. Each of you will write him a letter. Mizuki and I will deliver them to his house." This is Mizuki. A few days later, Wada and Mizuki arrive at Naoki's house. Naoki's mother opens the door and welcomes them. One look at her face is enough to tell that she has been mentally devastated over the past few months. When Wada asks to see Naoki, she calmly says, he doesn't want to see anyone right now. His mental condition is extremely bad. Disappointed, they leave. After they are gone, Naoki's mother enters her son's room. She tries to talk to him, but Naoki doesn't respond. Instead, he sits in a corner of the room and continues behaving strangely. Later, in her own words, Naoki's mother explains, "All of this started the day Yuko said those things in the classroom. Naoki doesn't let anyone touch him anymore, not even me. Whenever he touches something, he keeps cleaning it over and over again, and yet he goes for days without taking a bath or cutting his hair. It's as if he's completely isolated himself from the entire world." She pauses for a moment and lets out a deep sigh. Even if Naoki really is responsible for Monami's death, it isn't entirely his fault. His life was ruined because he got involved with the wrong person. Meanwhile, things weren't going well for Shoya at school either. The entire class had believed everything Yuko said, and very quickly, a rumor began spreading that Shoya had AIDS. From that point on, a cruel campaign of bullying began. No one wanted to sit beside him. People wouldn't even let him touch them. Eventually, the entire class completely isolated him. Meanwhile, Wada goes to Naoki's house again with Mizuki, but once again, they receive the same answer. Naoki doesn't want to see anyone. On the way back, Mizuki says in a disappointed voice, "Sir, I don't think Naoki will ever come back to school." Wada gives a faint smile. "Don't think like that. I believe that sooner or later he'll come back." But reality was completely different. Neither the letters written by his classmates nor the videos they sent him could bring Naoki back to normal. Instead, every time he watched them, he became even more disturbed. One day, Naoki's mother mixes sleeping pills into his food and gives it to him. After Naoki eats the food and falls into a deep sleep, his mother cuts his messy hair. She cleans his hands and feet. After so long, she tries to make her son look a little more normal again. But when Naoki wakes up and sees his cut hair, he becomes violently furious. He starts screaming. Then he begins smashing everything in the room. It is as if he no longer has any control over himself. Meanwhile, back at school, Mr. Wada realizes that the bullying against Shoya is getting worse day by day. One day he addresses the entire class and says, "You're only hating him because he ranks first in the class. But don't forget, he worked extremely hard to get where he is." At that very moment, Mizuki speaks up for Shoya. But instead of making things better, it only makes the situation worse. Some of the students in the class start mocking Mizuki. "Then kiss Shoya." Slowly, their teasing turns into pressure. Eventually, they force Shoya and Mizuki to kiss each other. They believe that by doing so, Mizuki will also become infected with AIDS. And that, they think, is Mizuki's punishment for taking Shoya's side. It becomes clear at that moment that Yuko's revenge hasn't just changed the lives of two students. Her poison has spread throughout the entire class. Meanwhile, one day, Shoya texts Mizuki and asks her to meet him. As soon as the two come face to face, Shoya takes out a report and hands it to Mizuki. Then, with a faint smile, he says, "I got tested for HIV." The result came back negative. That means the teacher was lying that day. Mizuki seems to breathe a sigh of relief. Shoya says, "That's why you don't have to be afraid. I don't have AIDS, so that kiss won't do anything to you either." From that day onward, their relationship slowly begins to change. One day, several students start bothering Mizuki again. Seeing what is happening, Shoya can no longer control himself. He pulls a blade from his pocket and cuts his own hand. Blood immediately begins to pour out. Then, deliberately, he smears his blood onto the students who had been bullying them. In a cold voice, he says, "Be careful. My blood has HIV in it." Those few words are enough. Everyone backs away in terror. From that point on, no one dares to bother Mizuki anymore. Meanwhile, Naoki's condition continues to grow worse day by day. One day he goes to a shop alone. Suddenly, right in front of everyone, he cuts both of his hands. Blood spills everywhere. After hearing what happened, his mother rushes there. She somehow manages to bring Naoki home and bandages his hands. After remaining silent for a long time, Naoki finally speaks for the first time. In a trembling voice, he says, "Yuko mixed the AIDS virus into our milk. I've been infected." His mother is stunned by what she hears. She immediately says, "Come on, we're going to the hospital right now." But Naoki shakes his head. "I'm a murderer. Monami opened her eyes afterward, but I threw her into the swimming pool, and that's when she actually drowned and died." Hearing the truth, Naoki's mother becomes completely speechless. All this time, she had believed that perhaps her son was simply a victim of the circumstances. Meanwhile, as time passes, Shoya and Mizuki grow closer. Their friendship slowly turns into love. Elsewhere, Mr. Wada goes to Naoki's house once again. But once again, Naoki's mother refuses to let him see her son. A few days later, Naoki's mother writes a letter to her husband. "Our Naoki isn't the same Naoki anymore. He has killed someone." As she writes the letter, she makes the hardest decision of her life. She decides that she will stop her own son forever. Meanwhile, Mr. Wada learns the entire story from Mizuki, from beginning to end. After that, Shoya begins his confession. He says, "No one ever taught me that killing someone was a crime. Ever since I was a child, my mother taught me only one thing: science." Shoya's mother was a brilliant researcher. Science was her entire world. Instead of playing with her son, she would give him broken toys to fix. She encouraged him to build new machines and invent new things, because she believed that one day her son would become a genius just like her. Shoya kept failing, and with every failure, his mother's disappointment grew. Eventually, that disappointment turned into anger. She even began beating Shoya. Unable to endure it any longer, Shoya's father eventually divorced her. After that, Shoya's mother returned to the world of her research. But before leaving, she gave her son several science books and told him, "My blood runs through your veins too. One day, you'll be able to do it." Within a year, Shoya's father remarried. And from that moment on, Shoya began to feel like the loneliest person in the world. To escape his loneliness, he read the books his mother had left behind. He built new machines. He tried to create all kinds of inventions. But there was no one around to see his talent. One day, he created a blog. He began uploading photos and videos of the inventions he made. He had only one hope. Maybe someday his mother would see them. But the days passed. He never received a response from his mother. No one even paid attention to him. Then he began doing something horrifying. He started torturing animals and uploading the videos to his blog. It was through these videos that he first attracted people's attention. Shoya realized that people were more interested in horrifying things than in anything good. After that, he decided to do something even bigger. He wanted to create an invention so remarkable that his mother could no longer ignore him. And from that idea, he created the electric shock anti-theft purse. He even won an award for the invention. But that same day, another horrifying event took place. A 13-year-old girl killed her entire family by mixing cyanide into their food. And the news of Shoya's award remained nothing more than a tiny article buried inside the newspaper. That day, one more thing became clear to him. Simply creating inventions wasn't enough to get people's attention. And at that very moment, he made a terrifying decision. He would commit a murder, but not alone. He needed someone who would do exactly what he told them. After thinking carefully, he chose Naoki. Because Naoki was extremely simple-minded, he would be the easiest person to manipulate. Then one day, Shoya revealed his plan to Naoki. Monami collapses to the ground after receiving a powerful electric shock. The moment Naoki sees this, he becomes terrified. But there is still no fear on Shoya's face. He simply says, "You're a loser." With those words, he walks away. He wanted to prove that he wasn't a coward. And that's when Naoki notices that Monami is slowly regaining consciousness. He grabs Monami and throws her into the water in one sudden movement. Shoya then returns to his confession about what Yuko said. The day Yuko stood in front of the entire class and said that she had mixed HIV-infected blood into their milk, he wasn't afraid. Because he thought that if he really had been infected with HIV, perhaps his mother would come back into his life. But when he received the test results, even his final hope was destroyed. There was no HIV infection in his body. Meanwhile, Naoki also begins giving his confession. He says, "Yuko is responsible for everything." After that day, I thought every single day that I was infected with AIDS. I wouldn't touch anyone because I didn't want anyone else to become infected because of me. Not even my own mother. But in the end, my mother was the one who tried to kill me. In a flashback, we see Naoki's mother deciding that she is going to kill him. She embraces Naoki and drives a knife into his chest, but she can't push the entire blade into him. Seeing this, Naoki seems to lose his mind. Then he sees Shoya standing in front of him again, saying, "You're a loser." And the moment he hears those words, he completely loses control. Like a madman, he repeatedly stabs his own mother with the knife until she dies. The next day, the police arrive and take Naoki away. Shoya sees it on the news and says, "I thought he loved his mother so much." Mizuki is with Shoya at the time. She tells him, "You're obsessed with your mother too. The woman who once left you, who abandoned you, you've bbeen obsessed with getting her attention all this time." Hearing this, Shoya becomes furious. He attacks Mizuki with a hammer, and just like that, Mizuki dies instantly. In a flashback, we see that Mizuki had already met with her teacher, Yuko. She had asked Yuko, "Why did you do this?" Yuko tells her that she had originally planned to infect the two boys with AIDS. But when Sakuramiya realized what she was planning, he stopped her from committing such a serious crime. Yuko says, "Those two boys destroyed my family, and I will never forgive them." Mizuki then says, "Shoya is extremely lonely. All he wants is his mother's attention." Yuko suddenly starts laughing loudly. But as she keeps laughing, she remembers Monami. And eventually she breaks down and starts crying uncontrollably. After attacking Mizuki, Shoya cuts her body into pieces and stores them in a refrigerator. Later, Shoya sees an email saying that his mother wants to meet him. Shoya goes live on his channel and says, "My mother wants to meet me, so without wasting any time, I'm going to her university." I was nervous. How would my mother react when she saw me? Would she hug me and cry? But as soon as I reached the university, I started wondering, what would I even say to my mother? I hadn't accomplished anything big enough for the entire country to know my name. And that's why I didn't meet my mother that day. I simply came back. Now I want to do something huge, something so big that my mother will have no choice but to notice me, something that will make her proud of me. And that's why there's going to be a major event at the school tomorrow. I'm going to do something huge at that event. Yuko watches Shoya's live stream. She realizes that Shoya is planning something new. The next day, Shoya arrives at the school and begins his speech. He says, "Every living creature has value, and every animal has an equal right to live." Everyone starts cheering and making noise as they listen to Shoya's speech. Shoya then takes out his phone. He is about to detonate a bomb. Yes, this was Shoya's plan. This was the huge thing he wanted to do, the thing he believed would finally make his mother notice him. But Shoya is shocked when the bomb doesn't explode even after he presses the button. That's when Yuko calls him. She says, "I have your bomb. I've seen your live stream. I wanted to destroy you and complete my revenge." "And did you really think your mother had actually noticed you?" "That email I sent you that day, I sent it using your mother's name." Why do the innocent always have to suffer? Monami, Mizuki, and now your mother. None of them committed any crime, yet they all had to become victims. Hearing his mother's name, Shoya completely loses control. He realizes what Yuko has done. Yuko had actually planted the bomb inside Shoya's mother's laboratory. When Shoya pressed the button on his phone, the bomb didn't explode at the school. It exploded directly inside his mother's laboratory. Yuko says, "You killed Mizuki and announced it yourself on a live stream. You won't be sentenced to death for killing Mizuki, because you're a juvenile. But remember this, even if the law forgives you, I never will. And there's one more thing. Before your mother died, she heard you. I met with her. I told your mother everything about you, how much you love your mother. I left your invention in her laboratory. Your mother was a good person. But unfortunately, the button that caused the explosion that killed her, you were the one who pushed it." After hearing everything, Shoya completely breaks down. He starts screaming, but by then, there was nothing he could do. Everything had already been destroyed in the explosion. Shoya keeps screaming. The invention he had created to impress his mother had now become the very reason for her death. Shoya begins crying even harder. Finally, Yuko appears in front of him. She says, This was my revenge. And from this moment on, your life in hell begins. You will never be able to escape from this guilt. And today, my revenge is finally complete. At that very moment, Shoya understands just how terrifying the price of a mother's tears can be. In the end, no one won. One mother lost her only child. Another mother remained alive, but had to carry the pain of losing her child every single day. Two teenagers who had their entire lives ahead of them destroyed that future with their own hands. And Yuko did get her revenge, but could she ever get her lost daughter back? Maybe that's why Confessions isn't simply a story about revenge. It's a story where every wrong decision and every act of revenge ultimately creates nothing but an even deeper emptiness. So, friends, that was today's story. Let me know what you thought of it. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and share. I'll see you in the next story. Bye.